Welcome. In today's tutorial, we're going to discuss how to add a mobile profile for employees to be able to clock in and out from on their mobile app. Now, before we start here, we're updating our pages in the software, and at some point, adding a mobile profile is going to be using something similar to this, uh, where maybe you'll edit the mobile app on this side and then all the details here, but adding a new mobile app would be through the plus, similar to the way we have it now at organizational levels. To get to the mobile profiles, you would hover over configuration, down to time clocks, over and down to mobile profiles for employees. And this is the current interface of how you would add one in. Right here, we have the add new mobile profile, and we just click on this. First thing we need to do is give it a code. This could be numeric or a brief name. And then the description can be longer to let you know what it's at. So the next we need to determine what we want the employees to be able to see or do from within the mobile app. View timesheet is going to allow them to see their hours total for the day. View PTO request would allow them to request time off. In doing so, when they choose a specific bank through the PTO request, they'll be able to see what their hours left are in that bank. But we can also allow them access to a page which is going to list all their banks with their balances for easy viewing. We don't really utilize the count. We can utilize the tip, and we would just do a prompt of enter tip. And when they clock out, it's going to ask them for their tip amount. Now, we could also utilize this for something like per diem or gas or something like that we could have them, we could set up here and then manipulate the pay types to allow whatever they enter to go to a specific code into payroll. But that's being able, we're able to do that from here, and the entry on this would be a dollar amount. We can require a photo to be taken when they clock in or out. And again, it's only for ins and outs. It's not for lunches or breaks. Require trip info we don't use. Enable start and end. This is going to put the in and out buttons in their app. If we have the ask for notes on out enabled, they will have an opportunity to be able to add a note when they clock out, or they could just bypass it and not leave one at all. But having this checked gives them the opportunity, if they desire, to leave a note that would come over to their punch in the software, and the supervisor would be able to see and see what the note was. Enable lunch. If we need them to clock in and out for lunch, we can select this. If your employees don't need to clock in and out for lunch, maybe it's an auto lunch deduct that they're set up on, or they're paid for lunch or something like that, then you really don't need to enable this. The fewer buttons the employee has access to, the fewer mistakes that are made. Same with the enable break and the enable transfer. Now, the enable transfer works with this down below. And maybe we need them to select a job when they clock in. And I would select required. And then over here on the prompt, whatever I feel the employees would best understand to be able to pick a job, select a job is quite common, but whatever you desire to put in there. And, what the prompt is going to be is once they clock in, it's now going to prompt them to select a job. You might use the terminology choose. You might have this in Spanish if desired. Whatever you desire, this is going to be up when, as soon as they clock in, it's going to ask them this prompt. Now, Just having this selected and not the transfer selected means that the employee is only going to be asked to choose a job when they clock in or they clock back in from lunch if they're using the lunch. When we enable the transfer here, it enables the employee at any time during the day to change their job. So if you've got employees that spend maybe 20 minutes on each job, then the enable transfer would be great, because as soon as they're done with one job, they can tap the transfer button, choose their next job, click OK, and then do that job and then keep transferring throughout the day. Once the employee clocks out, it's done. If I don't have this selected, then really we only want the employee to change their job when they clock in and when they clock back in from lunch, because they typically only work on one job a day, or one job in the morning and a different job after lunch. So it's up to you on which one to use. Even if you have this selected and they only do one job a day, it's not going to hurt anything. But again, it takes that away from them for those that might be wanting to test new features on the app or something like that and causing an issue in the timesheet. Up to you. View last punch, I always select. I always select at least a minimum of 1 minute. This means that if I clock in at 11:11 a.m., I'm not able to clock in again until 11:12. I'm actually not able to clock out or transfer or anything like that until the next minute comes up. This really prevents people who like to double tap on things, so that, if they double tap on in and this is set to 0, they're now going to have 2 in punches at the exact same time. So this prevents that. And now if they double tap, it's going to take their first one and then it's going to give them a message that says duplicate punch, please try again later. And that's going to prevent their time card from having a lot of exceptions in it. The geofencing, if you have geofence profiles set up under the configuration setup, company setup, and we enable this, the employee is only going to be able to clock in or out from the locations that you have in the geofencing and nowhere else. Minimum lunchtime, if you require the employees to be clocked out for, say, a minimum of 30 minutes before they can clock back in from lunch, and this is something necessary currently in California, but other areas also want their employees to be clocked out for a full 30 minutes so that it's considered a lunch. We would use this here. If they try to clock back in early, it's going to tell them minimum time not met. Please try again later. Enforce schedule. If the employee is on a schedule, then we have this selected. They're only able to clock in or out between their scheduled start and stop on the days that they're scheduled. So if their schedule is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, then they can only clock in and out at 8 a.m. and after, or before 5 p.m. up to 5 p.m. Anything before 8 a.m. and anything after 5 p.m., it's going to result in an error that they're not able to punch outside of scheduled time. Now, if we want to give them a little bit of grace period around that 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., we can utilize these. So if we set this to 2 minutes on a grace in and 2 minutes on a grace out, now they would be able to clock in from 7:58 a.m. forward, and they would be able to clock out up to 5:02 p.m. So that's what our grace in and grace out allows them to do when the enforced schedule is utilized. The ask health questions, if the questions are set up in your database, this would be something when an employee clocks in, it's going to ask them, do you have a fever? It might ask them, have you been around any sick people? Whatever type of health question you brought up for them, it would ask them on their clock in and return those answers and either enable them to clock in or not clock in, depending on what's been asked. So that's not often used, but that's what this is for. So we've got our profile set up. And all we have to do is click save. And here it is. Now we want to be able to assign employees. And we can do that right here if we wanted to. Or we could assign them in their employee details one at a time and also attach that to a default profile. We'll go over that in just a moment. From here, if we want to assign employees, if we look here on the top one, we see Grace is here, and maybe we want her assigned to this one. So when I click assign employees, it's blank. If I'm searching for a specific employee, I can enter their card ID right here and then click filter. And if this matches any employees, they'll show up here. I can also utilize main supervisor, click in Bobby, and I could use these. Maybe Bobby's employees that are in division away locker room, and then click the word filter. He doesn't have any that are in there. I don't know if he has any anywhere that are in a division, but I uncheck all of that and click filter, and these are Bobby's employees. I could use department and come down and choose a particular department and then click filter, and these are the employees in that department. So I can utilize all of this stuff to quickly get to the employees. You know, if I've got 2, 3, 6, 800 employees, and I want to find them quicker, I can utilize these or a combination of things to be able to narrow down the employees that I want to find and be able to assign. Normally, I'm just going to leave this blank, and I'm going to click the word filter. This brings up a list of all of my employees. I can click last name, and that's going to sort the last name alphabetically from A to Z. I can click again, Z to A. Same with the first name. Card ID is a little bit different because it looks for anything that starts with a 7 and starts listing that. And it could be 749536, and then the next one might simply just be 7. So it's kind of weird on that. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just lists by what the number is started with. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 9, 2, 3, so forth. But again, click filter, find the employee, select them or multiple employees, and then I have to click confirm. Are you sure? Okay. So I've assigned Grace to this profile, and it's important to note that she is no longer assigned to this one. An employee can only be assigned to one profile or another, but not multiple profiles. I could also assign employees by going to employee and employee details. I can select a specific employee and click edit. And I can change their mobile profile from here, one employee at a time, and save. Now, the other spot where a mobile profile would be good for is going to be under the default profiles. And again, hover under employees, down to default profiles, and click on default profiles. Now, these are useful when adding employees one at a time because all of the options for different types of things we can create. So our East Coast 8 to 5 people, I can edit this. And this has our time zone as Eastern time, the particular lunch plan, schedule, and all the details that would normally have to be picked one at a time for anybody that's hired on the East Coast under the 8 to 5 schedule. I can select all these things in here and easily assign this default profile to any new employee that I'm adding. Now, here's the mobile profile, so we can select the test department or test for department transfer under the mobile profile and save it. And now when we go to add a new employee, employee details, and then click add new company member, there's our default profile. And you notice, again, all of this stuff that was in the default profile over here is pretty much blank, as well as the mobile profile. But if we come in here and choose that particular profile, it flashes, and on the right hand side all of those defaults are set in. All of the defaults here that I selected for that default profile are there. I would just add the name, their numbers, hire date, and save, and I'm done. So that's the basics of the tutorial on creating a new mobile profile and being able to assign that to employees in different manners. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps.